On this episode of Hoosier Adventures, we're going to check out the Swiss Alps along with Zurich. So the first part of this video is going to be all about the Swiss Alps, and we're actually going to take a train up to the top of a large mountain called Jungfrau Mountain. The peak, you'll see it sometimes listed as Jungfraujoch. Excuse me butchering the pronunciation. I don't speak German or whatever language this is in, so just bear with me as far as that goes. Now, to get to the mountain, there are several different ways. We actually came from Zurich here, so you can take a train, you can take a bus, or you can do what we did and rent a car. And probably the easiest way to get to the mountain is to rent a car. This mountain is often called the top of Europe, and I believe that is the name of sort of the tourist attraction that's at the top of it. Back to renting a car for a moment. We actually had really good luck with renting a car. It was surprisingly cheap. They upgraded us to a really nice SUV. The thing that I would advise people to be wary of is there are a lot of speed cameras, and we actually got a speeding ticket, and the speeding ticket ended up, we were over the speed limit by about 8.5 miles per hour. I don't know exactly what that is in kilometers, but I translated it into miles per hour. And we got a very hefty fine for only being 8.5 miles an hour over the speed limit. So I do recommend driving there. You get to drive through all kinds of cool tunnels. You can stop, take pictures of the mountains, take pictures of the lakes if you want. But I just advise you to be very, very wary of the speed cameras, because if you're just even slightly over, I mean, again, I don't think a police officer would have stopped us, but the camera got us, and they sent us a ticket in the mail a few months later, and it was pretty hefty, so be on the lookout for that. Here we are, we're at the top of the mountain. You'll notice all these people outside, and this is, I think, about in the end of May. So it was snowing, it was incredibly overcast. You obviously can't see anything, but on a clear day, you can get a very amazing view of the valleys and the other mountains around you. So a little bit disappointing as far as the view goes, but the experience was still great, and we had an amazing time. So as you saw at the beginning of the video, and you're going to see later, you have to go up and down from the mountain on a little train. It's a fun experience. Also, you're going to want to try to get acclimated to the changes in elevation as best you can. So before you get to the very top at Jungfraujoch, you get to get off at another station that's, I think, 1,000 feet lower, or maybe 500 feet lower below the peak. And it's best to get off the train and walk around a little bit so that you can sort of get acclimated to it. Because when we got off at the lower station, I walked around. You can see the video from that at the beginning, and didn't have any problems or any issues at all. But when we got to the top of the mountain, I started to get lightheaded. I didn't get altitude sickness, which some people do, but I got lightheaded, and it was harder for me to breathe. It was kind of noticeable. Now, my wife tells me, and I don't know if this is true, but if you know, put it in the comments. The better your cardio health is, the more likely you are to experience shortness of breath and problems with the altitude. So again, it affected me. It did not affect my wife at all, though. She said that she experienced no shortness of breath and no dizziness, but I did see other people who were having some issues that day. So be on the lookout for that. And if you have issues with it, my advice is to just kind of sit down, catch your breath, and relax. Now, all of what you're seeing is ice. The walls are ice, the floor is ice, and of course it's very slippery. You notice the footage of my feet there where I'm walking really slow. You eventually adjust to it, but I did see some people slip sliding around. It seems a little dangerous, but once you get your ice legs, we'll call them, under you, you should be okay. Now, that's me sliding, and you can do what I did, which is just slide around through the corridors. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of other people doing it as well, but I did see some people fall. I didn't get them on camera, but yeah, I did see some people fall. So try to be careful out there. I very much recommend doing this even if you go on a day like we did where the visibility from the top of the mountain is next to zero, because you'll get to go outside. It's really cool. There's a lot of stuff to do at the top of the mountain, and I really enjoyed these ice caves with these different works of art and things like that. It was a great experience. So here we are on our descent. Now, we were there at the end of May, and what was cool to see when we were both going up and down the mountain is that there was kind of a real harsh line where the snow just sort of stopped and it went back to being grass. And again, this is beautiful, beautiful scenery. I'm not a skier. I don't think I've ever been skiing in my life, But if you are a skier, you know, they have all kinds of ski resorts that are along this train. There are actually stops for it if you're going to certain places to ski. So again, I don't know anything about the skiing, but I assume it's good. You know, it's Switzerland. This might seem kind of obvious, but I want to warn everyone about the temperature. At the top of the mountain the day that we went, it was 18 degrees Fahrenheit. So be prepared for that. Even if you're not going to go outside on the observation deck, it's still pretty cold in the building because the doors are constantly opening and closing. I did see some people who did not dress appropriately, and at the top of the mountain they sell heavy coats. So I assume that there are people who go up there, realize how cold it is, and then have to purchase a overpriced coat from one of the gift shops. So be prepared even if you go there during the summer. It's going to be really, really cold. One of my recommendations for the country of Switzerland overall is to just pick a small Swiss town and go spend an entire week there. My wife and I did a lot of traveling around, and we didn't get to stay in one place a lot. A lot of these mountain villages are beautiful with great views and just kind of a laid back atmosphere. And, you know, one of the things that I would say I regret is we didn't get to spend enough time in the small villages we went to. Zurich, though, is a very interesting city here in Europe. As opposed to other famous places in Europe, Zurich lacks those sort of big blockbuster tourist attractions. There's nothing that people are going to see photos of and instantly know you went to Zurich. So if that's sort of your intention to let people know where you've been, based on your photos, Zurich probably isn't the place for you. Now, that being said, though there are no sort of major blockbuster tourist attractions, it's an amazing city to just go wander around. The whole city to me feels like a maze, and it's built on these rolling hills, and so there's all kinds of stairways uh, up and down in the city streets and meandering paths and old cobblestone streets, and it's just a great place to get lost in. So that's my recommendation if you're going to go to Zurich is don't plan anything. Don't have anything that you need to go see. Just go and explore and get lost because it is like a maze. It's a very, very beautiful maze, basically. One of my favorite activities while we were in Zurich was just getting on different streetcar lines and sort of going wherever they take you and not really planning anything, getting off the streetcar and then getting on it and coming back the other way. That was a lot of fun. Again, just go get lost in Zurich. It's a wonderful place to be lost, I guess. Like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the last of my series about Europe, but I've got more videos on the way, and look forward to some more Hoosier Adventures.